Welcome to the interview segment of the Spurs Up Show today. We're here with Jackson Raymer of Is it Inside the Gators? I'm definitely wrong on that.
Yeah, it's inside the Gators.
Inside the Gators, I was actually right. But anyway, Jackson's a former guy here at Armchair. Goes to UF. Big, I would say. I don't want to say Gator fan because he's technically a journalist. And you're supposed to be unbiased. But Jackson's here to talk about the Gamecock Florida game and see what his feels on the game, about everything. So, Jackson, where do you feel like Florida is now under Mullen in year one?
First off, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been fun listening to y'all grow throughout the year. So, thank you for having me on. And through this year, it takes a while to kind of change that cultural mentality from a team that really should have been a two-win team last year. Some of our guys, they feel like they're more out there for themselves, not the team, and trying to play towards the Gator standard. And Mullen's trying to do that in year one. It takes some time, obviously. I mean, he's only been here for 9 games. I don't know if you saw his press conference after the Missouri game, but he kind of called the team out, trying to see how tough they are. We got kind of lacked the leadership, and since he's been here, that's kind of his main thing is trying to build some of these guys leaders inside the locker room and outside, and we're still getting there. So I'm hoping after a full college football season, let him get some of his players in there. That culture kind of changes into a more positive direction, but I think he's doing a good job right now.
Well, I mean, from an outsider's perspective looking in, I think he's having to take over a team that I wouldn't say was nearly as depleted as what Muschamp took over at South Carolina, but I would say like leadership wise and from from a locker room standpoint, but it would have been pretty similar in the way that they were on a losing trend and everything seemed to be down the same way that Spurrier left the program at South Carolina with how McElwain left Florida. I mean, I don't know if you would agree to say that, but it would be something similar. I could kind of agree there, but obviously, Florida's had a lot of success this year. At least from my eyes, you guys beat Mississippi State on the road, a ranked opponent at the time, and then you come back next week and beat LSU at home, hand them their only loss of the season so far, except that Alabama, who obviously it's going to be hard for anybody to beat Alabama this year considering the way they've been playing. But how does the team go from winning 4 SEC games in a row? You go Tennessee, Mississippi State, LSU, Vandy, to losing to UGA and Missouri back to back.
Hold on, Chris. I'm breaking up with you real quick. Can you repeat that?
I was saying that you go from the high of winning 4 SEC games in a row, Tennessee, MSU, LSU, and Vandy, to losing to UGA, Missouri. What do you think? Why do you think they lost those games like that, and what do you think contributed the most to those losses?
Georgia, I'll just say they are the better football team. Under year 3 of Kirby Smart, they've kind of gelled more together. They got the better athletes, and we're still in a rebuilding stage. And I think, if you watch that Florida Georgia game, that first play, Felipe Franks missed a wide open Van Jefferson on the flea flicker. And honestly, I think that changed the game. If we connected that, we go up 7-3 instead. 2 plays later, we fumble and it's 10-0. So Georgia, I kind of just a few mistakes, a few turnovers, especially 2 in the first half, and then 1 at the 1-yard line. So later on in the third quarter. So just a few things of turnovers, and I think Georgia just kind of took us out of our rhythm. Like, these guys, I don't think they can really handle losing yet. They enjoy to win, obviously, but I don't think they've got the right mindset and attitude of how to bounce back from a win. And we kind of saw that against Missouri. Kind of like a lack of leadership in the locker room throughout the week, trying to get these guys prepared. Georgia kind of knocked us out of the SEC East race and pretty much out of playoff talk. So that kind of got some guys down. We heard on Monday, one of our receivers, Josh Hammond, he mentioned that on the bus ride home from the game and throughout their week preparation, he could really tell the guys he didn't say it, but you could tell they kind of lost focus due to their main goals being unachievable now. So I think those guys kind of lost their edge, lost their competitive spirit for a game, and you saw it happen on Saturday when Drew Lock just picked us apart for 4 quarters. So I think about this week, Mullen and a few other players, they've kind of stepped up in the locker room and chewed some guys out. R.J. Raymond, he's pretty much a 3rd or 4th string tight end, really. He was here with Muschamp. There's 6 Muschamp players still on the roster. and he's one of them. He was a walk-on linebacker under Muschamp. Now he's playing tight end, pretty much doing everything. And it kind of says something when that's the guy that has to stand up in the locker room and call people out. Like, where's your quarterback? Where's your defensive star? Where's your offensive star that's really going to step up and, kind of rally the troops a little bit? And I'm hoping to see that this week in the locker room through preparation and see which guys are really going to buy into this Mullen culture.
Well, you talk about, the quarterback position and leadership from there. What is your take on the quarterback situation at Florida right now?
Oh, boy, it's a mess. It's been a mess for the last 9 years now. I think this would be, 9 years straight. We're going to be playing a backup, starting a backup by the end of the year, I'm sure. Franks, we saw through the first 6 games what he could do. I was pleased with the progress. You saw him go on the road at Mississippi State, which is not an easy place, especially with Dan Mullen coming back, and that was kind of a hostile environment. So that was a good win. He made some good throws on third down. We didn't score a lot, but we did enough to win the ball game. And then you saw him come back against LSU and lead a game-winning touchdown drive with about 9 minutes left, and that's something you wouldn't have seen in years past from our quarterback. So I was really surprised and excited about just those little things that he's gotten better at. Overcame an interception against LSU, and then I just think that's his ceiling. That's all he's just going to be the kind of guy that goes out there and 205, 215 yards and a touchdown. That's the kind of guy he is. And if he turns the ball over, he's done. He loses his confidence, he loses his mojo, and there's really no getting him back in the game after that. And you saw that against Georgia after we fumbled the football and he throws an interception. And last week he went 9 for 22 against a team that ranks 117th in the country in pass defense. So obviously that's not a confidence booster. And we got to see a guy in Kyle Trask who's 6'5", 240 pounds. He's a guy out of Texas, a 3-star prospect. Hasn't started the game since middle school, honestly. So Mullen said last week against Missouri, Franks would have a long leash. I think this week he hasn't said it, but Franks going to have a lot shorter leash. And I'm calling it that Franks plays 2 drives maximum, maybe 3. I don't see past 3 because those fans are going to be on him. 2 drives. If he doesn't put up at least a touchdown, he's out of the game, and we're going to see Kyle Trask and see what he can do.
Well, what about, there's also Emory.
4-star at a new redshirt rule. He can play 4 games, so he's playing in 2 right now. He saw him a little package plays against Georgia. And Mullen's got a plan for him the next 2 games. So I really think Emory Jones is the future, but, with how Franks has played the last 2 weeks, you really can't have him in the game anymore. And I think Kyle Trask is going to get a big opportunity Saturday against South Carolina.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, is that do you think that there's any way that they would burn the red shirt on Emory Jones this year, even if the season's, I want to say it's a wash at this point, but you're not winning the East and you're not making the playoffs. So would you think it would be worth it at all to burn the red shirt on Emory Jones to beat Florida State or beat South Carolina this week?
See, after the Missouri game, yes, I was in the red shirt. You get these guys, we got 4 games left, including the bowl game, and he's probably going to be our starter next year, week 1 against Miami and Orlando. So I'm like, just throw the guy and, let him get some experience, let him get his feet wet. But you could tell in the Georgia game, only in the 5 or 6 plays he played, he real confident in getting the play calls then from the sideline. So that's one thing I think he's still working on. Doesn't really know the playbook, and Mullen's reiterated multiple times the last few weeks that he does not plan on burning the red shirt. So, I understand that you don't want to throw the kid in there too quickly. And with that red shirt rule of, get to play 4 games, and he can play in half the games and as many snaps in those 2 games as they want at the end of the year, I think that's what we're going to roll with. See Kyle Trask for the majority of the snaps for the rest of the season.
So for right now, in this moment, would you trade Felipe Franks for Jake Bentley?
You know what? Probably I would, because I know, and I'm not a big Jake Bentley fan, but I think he's got more of the skill set that Mullen is probably looking for as a kind of a tougher guy. He can make some throws. We obviously know Jake's ceiling and what he can do. He's not really a game kind of winner, but Man, you gotta in the Mullen offense, we try to run the read option about 6-7 times a game, and Felipe Franks just hands it off every single time. And I just feel like Bentley is one of those guys. I haven't watched much of South Carolina this year, just been so busy on game days. But I feel like he'd be more of a willing runner, kind of a game manager in the passing game for Florida. And yeah, I'll take Jake Bentley over Felipe Franks right now.
Okay, well, going from that, what's one player? What is something that South Carolina does that scares you the most going towards the game Saturday?
Good backs. I know our run defense isn't all that great, so any team that really can establish the run game early. And I know Jake Bentley, he's an accurate thrower, but if you get him to throw more than 32, 35 times a game, South Carolina's typically struggling in that ball game. But yeah, kind of even the passing game, man. Florida, they're thin on the secondary. We're kind of just out of our mojo right now. We got several starters down. I think we're down 6 total defensive backs. And South Carolina's proven they can throw the football in a lot of games this year for a lot of yards. So that's something I am a little bit worried about, if they can get that passing game clicking early and get the Gators defense off balance.
Well, I mean, that's something that South Carolina in general this year, if they can get out to I don't want to say a lead, but if they keep themselves in the game early, then they, like, statistically against games like Ole Miss, if we'd had a slow start that game, take Debo Samuel's kickoff return for touchdown away, we might not win that game. But, I don't know if you've been paying attention to South Carolina's defense in general, but secondary is very thin. We just lost Jam Williams and Javon Charles for the year, and Nick Harvey and JT Ibe are most likely going to be out for this game. That's 4 different safeties that South Carolina's not going to have that are all scholarship players. Do you think, or how do you think that Dan Mullen and maybe even Felipe Franks are going to take advantage of that?
That's a good question. We saw Missouri, who had all their starters on the back end, and they're a bad secondary football team, and a lot of teams are throwing for a lot of yards on them. And we had some open guys. A lot of the first half, like our best receiver right now, Van Jefferson, I think had 14 or 15 targets, only had 4 catches. So, I mean, we had guys open. It was the lack of execution of hitting those guys. So, I'm really not worried. I don't see Frank's ball game for very long. I really don't. So I can see Kyle Trask kind of test those waters in the secondary, finding a few men across the middle of the field and maybe a few home run shots, because we got some deep ball threats and Trayvon Grimes, Van Jefferson, and Tyree Cleveland. So I think Trask is the guy you need to be worried about. He can make all the throws, big arm, big kid. And he's a willing runner. And I honestly think South Carolina would be preparing for him instead of Felipe Franks. So I don't see Franks being.
Well, okay. We both know you're a betting man, Jackson. Who do you think? I think the spread is maybe 6 right now in the favor of Florida. Who do you take in the betting side, and then who do you take to win the game?
Betting side, I'll take South Carolina at 6 points. I'll take South Carolina at +6. Yeah, I was very close to taking Missouri. I think Florida was a 7-point favorite over Missouri, and I was very close. I don't bet on my team, so I try to stray away from that. But if I would, I would have thrown money on Missouri +7, and I'll do the same with South Carolina. I think Florida's just, after we could regroup this week, but I see this being – I still think Florida's going to win this football game, and I see it being roughly probably, like a 27-23 kind of game, 27-24. Yeah, but if I was a gambling man, I would take South Carolina for sure.
Okay, so, you take Florida to win. What's something off the top of your head that Florida has to do to make sure they can win this ball game?
Oh, we got to be able to run the football. And that was apparent against Missouri. First drive, we came out with 3 straight passing plays, and that is not Florida. We need to establish the run game. I think we threw the ball 5 times out of the 8 plays on the first drive, and it eventually resulted in a punt. But we struggled against running the ball against Missouri, and so did a lot of teams. Again, but we were kind of scared to do that early in the game. So I think if we can exploit that on South Carolina and their front line. I just saw that I can't remember the name, but you'll have a defensive lineman questionable this week with
Bryce Knight Williams and Aaron Sterling are both questionable for this weekend.
Okay, so yeah, I believe we can run for 175 yards or more. I think we got a really good shot at winning this football game.
Well, Jackson, it's good to have you on. Good to speak to you some about, the Gators. I know, love to hate Florida. Sadly, it won't be this weekend. But have some fun down there, man. Hopefully the Gamecocks pull out a victory.
Oh, sorry. I might have lost you right there. But thank you very much, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Sounds good, man.
Yep, go Gators.